Goeiedag, hoe gaan dit? My name is Wildkard. Thank you for watching the Wildkard Rugby Show. Like, comment, and subscribe. And yes, you are here today because, yeah, Dr. Rassi Rasmus will not be happy after Jasper Weise getting a red card tonight. And you're undoubtedly here wanting to hear my assessment and my analysis of whether or not this should be a red card. So I think this will be a good opportunity for all of us to watch the replay and decide together as to whether or not this is a red card incident at all. So yeah, here it is. I'm gonna put the replay and let's decide. Not funny. Stop laughing. Stop laughing. Okay. Look, I think that's what Jasper Weise had in mind. What was happening, but in the reality, in the game of rugby, it is not allowed. And albeit a very light butt on the head, it is still unsportsmanlike conduct. He may or may not get a long suspension because of because it wasn't a hard headbutt, but it's still definitely 100% a red card because of the fact that it is a unsportsmanlike conduct and technically striking a player. So yeah, it's really disappointing because I think he probably got goated into that a little bit. As a former Rugby World Cup winner, I think that, yeah, he should know a little bit better. I think he probably didn't feel like he was gonna do something. He probably felt like, this is all he wanted to do, but it's definitely a unsportsmanlike conduct and a headbutt and 100% warranted red card. And this isn't a situation where, despite the 20-minute red card in sim play, we've talked about this on the channel before, it's still a full send-off in a case of egregious incidents, such as striking another player, or if you abuse the referee. And and this is a perfect example of how the red card, 20-minute red card, actually works. A lot of people don't understand that the normal red card is still in play for egregious incidents like this, and people think that 20-minute red card completely replaces red card, which is not. The red card, as it used to be for the last 100 years, is still the same red card for extremely egregious incidents happened in the game. And the 20-minute red card is only introduced for rugby incidents that could be 50-50 when it comes to whether it's red card or yellow card or not. And that's what the 20-minute red card is for, not to replace the full red card as we saw tonight as a perfect example. A lot of people don't quite understand that. In addition, tonight, there was a couple of really interesting incidents. So right from the get-go, the Springboks did a kickoff where they deliberately set up did an illegal kickoff, deliberately set up for a scrum right from the get-go. Now, this, first of all, Esterhuizen is offside, okay? I don't know how the referee missed this. Esterhuizen is offside, and it should be a penalty to the Italians, but regardless of the offside or not that the referee clearly missed, I think this is a taunt. This is not a legitimate strategy for the Springboks. This is a taunt from Rassi Rasmus to play a bit of mind games to the pundits and to the Italians, because, for a couple of reasons. Number one, there's a more efficient way to get a scrum at halfway point, which is kicking the ball out on the full, right? That's a more efficient and more reliable way of actually getting a scrum at halfway point, in an opposition feed. But when it comes to actually, if you really want a scrum from the kick, right away to milk a penalty, you will actually kick off into a corner and then in a place where you can challenge the kickoff and have your player run up and just deliberately knock the ball forward, because that'll give you a scrum much closer to the opposition try line, near the sideline, so that the opposition only have one side of the field to work with should they want to exit from that kickoff. So it puts you in a much better position for the scrum as well if you don't win a scrum penalty, and also if you do get a scrum penalty, you're much closer to the opposition try line. So just strategically speaking, this is not really a good idea. So it's just, so in my opinion, this is not an actual strategy that the Springboks will be deploying in any other test match, and it's just a taunt to the Italians. But to me, I don't like it because I think it's just not efficient. To me, you could call me whatever you want. I'm a bit of a purist. I think that everything you do in a rugby team should be efficient, and just to waste any amount of time to taunt the opposition. I just think that's not really. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of it. I think it should be more efficient, and at least, you know, if you wanted to get a scrum, like I said, at least kick it down the field and then get a scrum closer to the opposition. And do a deliberate knock on and get a scrum closer to the opposition try line, and that'll be a more efficient way. And for me, I think it's just a more I just think there's a more efficient way to get this, and not really not really a smart way to just do what the Springboks did tonight. Should they actually want to scrum right away at the start of the game? So to me, that's just a taunt, and it's inefficient, and I think it's unnecessary as a result. So with that being said, there was also another just unbelievable, I think, TMO decision. So apparently, what's this guy? Well, is a reserve hooker coming on? What's his name? Wessels, Jan Hendrik Wessels. Apparently, he was not in touch when this happened. Like, I don't know how the referee could have decided that he wasn't in touch. But I'm pretty sure the on-field decision was no decision on the field. But the TMO decided that this was sufficient enough evidence to give it a try. It's a difficult position because the on-field technically did not have a decision, so the TMO has to give it a decision, try, no try. But I think there's more evidence suggesting that he was on the line than he was actually in for a try here. So yeah, just a bit of weird game overall, in my opinion. The Springboks, like we talked about last week, showed some significant problems in the defense last week, especially in the second half when the reserves came on. And as we talked about in previous reviews, that there are 4 iron pillars of the Springboks under the Rasmus rugby doctrine, right? Number 1, defense. Number 2, kicking. Number 3, scrum. And number 4, discipline, right? And last week, one of the pillars showed a significant crack, which was the defense. Tonight, much better, keeping it 0. I think Rasmus is more proud about the 0 on the scoreboard than anything else in the game. Especially the Springboks have 14 players on the field as well because of the red card. So this was a really good effort to not concede any points, having a player in the bin. So 10 out of 10 for defense, I guess. And then the kicking game was okay overall, but the goal kicking was a little bit shaky, not 100%. I think that Rasmus definitely want that improved once again with man on the block on the field. Yeah, again, still not to the level that I think the Springboks would like to feel comfortable for an international test level. The discipline was something that the Springboks wasn't as good as I think the obviously red card aside. There was a lot of breakdown turnovers from the Italians. Just I think that's one strategy the Italians did really well. They flooded the breakdown, made the breakdown difficult, and caused errors and penalties around the breakdown. So that discipline from is another issue. I think the Rasmus were not going to be happy and wanted to improve for the next week. And finally, the scrummaging. Despite having a play in the bin, the Springbok did not lose the scrum, but did not. I guess there were times when they were winning the scrum a little bit, but it was a little bit 50-50 at times. I think the Italians got a bit smart, especially early in the game. Not really kind of like baiting the Springboks to push early a little bit and getting a penalty for themselves there as well. So Italians definitely got a bit smarter when it comes to game managing, those scrummaging, but the Springboks, I think overall, wanted a bit more reliability from the scrum, and then they only really got that basically in the second half. Like a consistent when Unche came on, like a consistent dominance in the scrummaging over the Italian side. And that aside, I think that the Springboks had a pretty simple rugby, some pretty good hands that were shown tonight. Not too crazy when it comes to the game plan, and then just brutal physical rugby that got them across the line. Italians, I don't know what else to say. Hopefully your B team is learning a good lesson tonight, and I don't know what else is there to talk about. Anyway, let's have a talk about the points summary of, the match stats of the game. I have to refresh this sometimes because they reset after a while. So yeah, 7 tries to 0 for the Springboks, 445 run meters for the Springboks, 178 for the Italians, 120 carries for the Springboks for the 54. 20 defender speed in for the Springboks to the Italians 8. 10 turnovers conceded for the Springboks to the Italians 13. Only have to make 58 tackles for the Springboks, just absolute brutal. 58 tackles and made on 8 tackles missed for the Springboks. 163 tackles being made by the Italians and 20 missed tackles. And overall, the Italian tackle completion rate is not that bad. But the Springboks just really, really brutal when it comes to executing some of those set moves, especially around the line out, where they're able to create some space out wide, following the line out. If the maul doesn't work, they just send the ball out wide, getting themselves with that speed as well on the edges of the field. 29 kicks in play out of 8 for the Springboks, 18 for the Italian, 5 out of 7. Like I said, man on the block. Probably want to be a bit closer to 100% in terms of goal kicking. Kicks from hand, 614. My goodness, I am so tired. I can't even read. 454 kick meters for the Italians. And then we've got lineouts, 19 for the Springboks, 2 lost. 9 lineouts for the Italians, 7 lost. That is a brutal, brutal number for the Italians to have to consider after that result. 6 scrums for the Springboks, 1 scrum lost. Like I said, the Italians did really well to kind of like show the referee that the Springboks pushing early, and twice. First time was a short arm, second time it was turned straight into a penalty. So definitely got the game plan working there, but for a little while before it was all kind of like upended when there was just too much dominance coming through for the Springboks. 5 scrums for the Italians, no loss. 11 penalties conceded for the Springboks, 1 red card to Jasper. Luckily his brother is on the field, so if this was the end of his Springbok career, his brother is perfectly in place to replace him, taking his jersey. And then there was a yellow card to Wildkard Low. I think it was Wildkard Low for a high tackle, shoulder to the head. That was a 10-minute yellow card. And then the Italians had 2 yellow cards for repeated penalties after warning by the referee, just under pressure stuff. So yeah, that's the stats of the game. Let's do a quick recap of the match. So yeah, like we'll talk about, 0 minutes in, Springboks did a clear penalty. But anyway, they got a scrum they wanted, didn't quite get the penalty that they were looking for, but eventually they got pretty close to try line as well within about 5 minutes, and then they had a scrum penalty turnover against them for early push. Italians was able to get out of jail with a bit of an early push. The Springboks was held up over the try line following a knock on there as well. So 8 minutes into the game, finally the Springboks got the first try on the ball. There was a scrum penalty. And then they just spread the ball out wide. There was a nice little backdoor play, and then a flag long pass over the top to Makazulu Mapipi, who runs through, and he did an inside ball to Grant Williams, who runs in for the try, just lightning stuff. 5 points to 0 for the Springboks. This was probably from like 50-meter out as well. 15 minutes into the game, Edwill van der Merwe gets a try. He looked exactly like Curdy Arlensa, by the way. He actually looks like Curdy Arlensa somehow mixed up with Damian Willemse, okay? I don't know why that's what he looks like to me. Damian Willemse were somehow got his mixed up with Curdy Arlensa, right? And that's Edwill van der Merwe for you. He got he got a try on the ball for the Springboks. Basically he got the ball. Again, the Springboks creating some pressure at center field, send the ball out wide to him. He got the ball dotted into the corner, just inches away before his foot touched the line. 10 points to 0. There was 31 minutes into the game. The Springboks gets another try on the board. Willie Leroux, this was his 100th test cap. Again, showing a bit of that playmaker abilities as well, in addition to the ability to, in addition to being a good fullback and play some of the kicking game. He did a nice little kick behind, and Edwill van der Merwe followed up the kick, towed the ball through, and then grounds the ball for a try. Springboks kicks ahead, 17 points to 0, just 30 minutes on the clock. And just before halftime, 37 on the clock, there was a midfield. The Springboks sent the ball out in the midfield, and they set up a midfield maul, just like everybody partying, like something we saw at the Rugby World Cup final. I think this was in 2019 against England. They did this. This was not against the All Blacks. They did this against England in the 2019 World Cup, where they just set up a maul in the middle of the field from a carry. And then there was a nice delay pass from Grant Williams, after he ran kind of past the defensive line, and then a flat pass to Kane and Moody, who ran through, pumped off a defender as well, dunked the ball in for the try. 24 points to nil going to half time. Second half, it took about a few minutes, about 5 minutes in the second half. There was a yellow card to Wilco Low. And then 47 minutes in, the Italians gets a yellow card as well for repeated penalties. And then 51 minutes in the game, the Springboks finally gets themselves organized. They went for the line out, they went for the maul, and Malcolm Marks grounds the ball. 31 points to nil. And then 72 minutes into the game, again, the Springboks had a nice line out. They went for a maul. The ball come out, the backs, there was a little deep pass, backdoor pass deep, and then flat pass from Sasha Fanberg on Gome Zulu to White, Marco Zulu Mapimpi. There was just speed down the sideline. Another try for the Springboks, 38 points to nil. And finally, which you saw just then, last minute in the game, penalty for the Springboks, kick out for the line out. And then the Wilco Low peeled off on the maul, dunked the ball into the corner. I think that's probably not a try, but the French TMO giving it a try. 45 points to nil. There were moments the Springboks looked like they were really struggling a little bit, and I think that's one of the reasons because they're missing a player. But I think another reason is that I think the emphasis of the team is to be as simple as possible, whilst try to focus on the defense. So yeah, not the most like creative, I guess, exciting Springboks game. Albeit that the Italians did really well defensive wise and did really well disrupting the breakdowns, slowing the game, slowing down the ball. But I think that the Springboks definitely better, definitely improving the areas they were looking for, but still the discipline is probably something that Rasmus will be blowing up about in the post game reviews. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. Are you happy about the performance of Springboks? Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. And donkey.